Okay, so good afternoon. Yeah, we're just going to continue from where we stopped in the last class, and that's actually building the UI for the game screen. So yeah, let's just see how much we can do to round round this up. Okay, so let's start. So I'm just going to take this off. Just take out this const here. So in our scaffold, I'm going to return a. So let's just build the UI quickly. So we're going to be using a stack here. And then my system is a bit slow, so I'll close out a few things. Okay. So yeah, so I'm going to align this to the alignment dot top center. The top center. I hope that's actually. So for a stack, so just think of a stack as it actually helps you to arrange, can actually place elements, on top of each other, right? So, um, so I'm going to let's go use a safe area here, right? And I'm going to have a column, which was our column has children. So So we're just going to have, like the question, right? We have the question and then, the options and all that. That's basically what we're going to have. So I'm going to be using a widget called the rich text, right? So the text here is just going to be question, right? And then, yeah. So the rich text actually it makes use of what we call we need an inline span. That's why you can see it says this argument type string cannot be assigned to the parameter inline span. So what we're going to do is that our text here is going to use a text span widget, right? And then in our text span widget, we pass in the text question. So let's just say that, right? Okay. And give it a style. For style, probably just let's use let's use default text style. So I'm going to get from our theme, text theme, and then let me say headline medium, right? But yeah, headline medium. I think headline medium is fine. Headline medium is fine. Okay. Okay. Anita, you said you can't see the UI. Is it my VS Code or the the device itself? Which of them? Hello, can anybody hear me? If you can hear me, just respond on the chat or something. Because I think these are zoomed in as this should be okay. So we have the question here, of course, this is not where we want it to be, but let's just start, let's just keep going. Okay, so let's move. So what I'm going to do is that I kind of want this to be in a row, right? So let's just wrap this with, in a row. Now, after the rich text, let me save that. Let's just add a comma here to format things properly. Okay, good. So we have the rich text, right? Now, the rich text itself, right, also takes in, it also has a few, you know, properties here that we can use, right? But now, another thing is also the text span, right? The text span takes a list of inline word span, which is what of type was children. So I'm going to, after the start here, so the children, I think that should be, let's see. Yeah, the style. Okay. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So children, which is actually a list. So the list is just going to contain other text span. That's just what it's going to contain, right? So this is going to contain the number of questions, the questions itself. So let's say, just for example, let me just say question 1. We'll update it with the actual stuff, right? But just for UI purposes, question 1. And then let's kind of give it a style of, let's say, theme dot of context dot text theme. Let's use, okay, well, let's use headline medium for this one also. Now, let's make this is going to be, let me just use 25 here. Let me just use 25. So I'm just going to save that and then refresh. Okay, so this is what we actually want to have, right? Now I'm going to do another one, another text span. So this is where our text span ends. So let me just duplicate this. And this is just going to be a dash here, right? This one, I'm going to say line small for this, and then our last one. So this is just going to show, and then let me use 2 here. So when I save this, what do we have? So we can see you have 2 out of 25. So it's kind of like one number of questions and then that. So, but these in a row. So let's kind of space things up. So I'm going to say main axis alignment. Okay, I can use the space between. Right. So let's save that. Okay. So, and then for our column, let's let me add a padding to this row. Let's add a padding to this row. Let me say like a 16. Okay, so okay, so yeah, I think we are good. I think we're good. So let me see. Space. Let's try space evenly. So it's actually within, okay. So let's just leave it as space between. Fix that out. Okay, so this is what we have. So we have a text, but we have this question, and then these are kind of like the children of it. Okay, so let's just move. We're gonna do some. We'll do actual formatting, but let's just get the rough let's just get the rough stuff. Now, another thing we're going to need is we kind of want to need a timer, right? We need a timer. So so after this text, we want to kind of have a timer somewhere here. So let's see, where does our rich text end? So the space between is going to be for this. So let's create a timer, right? Let's create a timer. Um, okay, let me use a sized box to get with a height of 50, a width of 50 also. And then, so for the child, I'm going to use a stack for this. I'm going to use a stack, and the alignment should be alignments of center. I kind of want everything to just be centralized. Alignments.center. And let me take this up a bit. Then children. So for the children, I'm going to use a circular progress indicator, right? I'm going to use a circular progress indicator. Now the value, I'm just going to give some default values. We'll kind of make it the same. For now, let me assume the value is 8, right? So the value there is the kind of what's going to determine how much of, how a circular progress indicator is, kind of goes clockwise, right? So assuming from one end to the other end is a total of 10, right? Assuming. So if we're giving it an 8, it means that it's almost done going a full rotation, right? So, but we'll change that later, right? For now, let's just say, did we set up any so let's just say colors.amber. I'm going to leave most of the UI work for you guys to do, to update. And then we need to also give it a background color. So I'm going to say colors.gray. And then a stroke width, right? There should be, the width of the stroke could be, let's say 4, right? So let's just save that. So you can see this is what we've been able to do so far, right? So if let's say reduce this to 3. Okay, so now let's add something else. It's text. So the text basically is just going to be like the counter, right? What's, when you're kind of do like a countdown. So let's say I say, for example, 4, right? And I just saved that. So you can see we have 4 there. I know it looks a bit small, right? But let me let's use, yeah, let's just keep that. For style, I could also just do my theme dot of context dot text theme, and I want it to be a bit big. Let me use title large, and now let's just save that, right? So you can see the 4 is a bit bigger, right? You can check out this text styles. You now see the actual values that they actually represent. So maybe I could just, the 4 is looking a bit big, so maybe I can just increase this just for demo purposes, so you get to see how that. So that's the size of the box, and then that's the number, right? You can change the number. If you want to change the number from here, sorry, the color rather, you can actually do dot apply or dot copy with, right? And then you pass in a color, right? Let's say I want to change the color to because when you're using this theme, it comes with a default color. So I could say colors dot let's say blue. You need something that just stands out so you get to see that. Okay, so you can see that changes, but blue is not really a good contrast, not a good contrast. So let me just leave this, so at least you know that this is something that can be implemented. So I'm just going to leave it as black, right? Just going to change it to black. Okay, but of course by default it's already black. So I'm just going to wrap the text in this with a center widget, right? Yeah, and then save that, just to make sure things are centered, right? So this is that. This is our progress indicator, right? But you know, so knowing that, of course, this is part of the things you should be able to componentize, right? You can actually use this progress indicator anywhere. So I can just click on this, the size block, and then click on extract widgets, and then I'll just call this progress indicator, right? And of course, that's fine. Now I can extract this and just take this out of here. Do we have widgets? Do we have a place to store some of our widgets? Yes, we do. So I'm just going to create a file called progress indicator, dot, and I'll just paste that here. And yes, import material, and we're good. Now, of course, there are things we can, you can do it in such a way that you don't force the heights. The person can change the color dynamically. You already know how to do that. So let's just move. So I'm going to just import this here. Okay, so abstract classes can't be instantiated. Try creating an instance of the concrete subtype. So I think something is wrong somewhere. Let's see. Extend stateless widgets. Okay, so I hope it's not. We need to import this actually. Or maybe I think I'm using a name. Yeah, I'm already using a predefined name. So I think so that's one thing about naming. So let's rename this Shift F2. Let me call it progress timer. So we don't use a default name, a class name that already exists. Sorry, F2. So you can just click on F2 on Windows, yeah, progress timer, right? So I'm just going to call progress timer. Okay, and then we're good to go. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, this is what we kind of have. So let me just save this. So just to add a bit of space here, I just added 2 extra spaces after the question. Now the essence of this is because you can see I can actually format each of these texts separately. That's why you can see the question is big, this other 2 is big, this one is actually small. So that's just one of the essence of the text part. Okay, so yeah, let's move on, right? Let's move on. So we're done with this. Let's see our row, right? In our row, okay, so we are in this column. So we are done with the first aspect, which is this, that is displaying the question and that. So let's get into building the a card that is going to hold the questions, right? How are the questions going to be seen, right? So first of all, let's actually design that. I would want to use, okay, let's just do it here. We'll extract it because we're going to actually reuse it. So let's say I have a container, right? And I want the height of the container. First, yeah, let me Network is crazy today. Um, please confirm you can hear me. Okay, um so that's will create the height, right? So we'll kind of want to make it responsive. So I'm going to use the whole media query. So this is going to automatically calculate the height of that device, right? To calculate the height of that device. And then, so when it gets the height, kind of want to use, we need the height to be like 60% or 50. It all depends on, what you're designing. But I'm going to just say times 0.6. Okay, so for the width, I'm going to leave the width for so it can just adjust based on the content. So the margin, um I want so let me just let me leave these attributes, right? Let's just go straight to the child. I'll add them later so you see how it actually comes alive. So we're going to use a column, right? So of course the column children. Now the first thing is in a column we want to see the question, right? Want to see the question, and then want to also now see, the answer, the options, right? So we have, let's say, let me just use it. Let me just put any question, right? Could just say what is Flutter, right? So that's just that. I'll do some adjustment later. Now, let's add a so after the question, the next thing we need are the next thing we need is actually what the options. We actually need the options. Now the option in itself, right, is just going to be a display of several texts, right? It's just going to be a display of several what texts. So it's going to be a bit tricky. So what I'm going to do is we're going to create one and then we'll reuse it, right? We're going to create one and then I'm going to reuse it. So that's the question. The answer is going to be in a container, the answer option. So we have maybe like 3 options or 4 is fine. So our container has a child. So let's use a row, right? Let's use a row. Now, but the width of this container should be as wide as the container. So if I want that to happen, I would use I'll say double dots what's infinity. So that would make it as wide as, right? And then the row has children. Now, so we're still going to use the rich text, we're still going to use the concept of the word rich word text. So let me just, okay, let's just do it, right? So rich text, right? And then, of course, it takes a text span like we have seen already. So the text span takes a text, right? So we need to, what the first thing we want to show is the question, the option number. So let's say, for example, 1. So this is like option 1, right? And then other things can now what follow. That is the option itself can now actually what follow. So you can see we have this. Now, after the question, the children, right? So let me just give this think the style text theme dot headline large. Okay, so that's our rich text, right? Now, the next thing is that it takes what children. So these are going to, so we'll have our text span, right? Which is, so let's say this is the actual option. So what is Flutter? I could just say a cross Flutter is a car. Maybe option number one of what is Flutter, you see it's a car. So you can see how it will what show. Of course, we'll arrange this, but that's I'm just going to give a space here and save that so you can see number one car, right? So we can have as much, of this as possible, right? We can have as much of this as possible. So now another thing is we would want kind of like a what's it called? A way to know if the answer is correct or not, right? So let's assume um let's just let me kind of set things up properly. Okay, good. So after our rich text, which is in this row, right? We also want to have like a container. Um let's give it a height of let's say 30 and a width of 30, right? And then let me give a decoration. So let's use a box decoration, and the color for now, let's just say colors dot gray, or colors dot amber, right? We'll use the correct stuff, right? But let's just do this now for the border. So we want to just kind of make it selectable, right? So get to know if you choose the right option, it should show green. If you choose the wrong option, it should be, maybe red or something, right? So for now, I'm just going to say border dot all, right? And then the color should be let's say colors dot blue, and the width should be, let's say, 3, right? Okay, so you can see that, right? So we're going to do a much more cleaner stuff, right? Now in our what's it called, after our border, right? Still part of the decoration, right? There's a shape property. So I'm going to say box shape dot circle, right? Just to make it rounded, right? The shape of the decoration. And then, of course, we haven't given it a child. Remember, it's a container. So the child we want actually is just an icon, right? And then the color, right? Let's just say, the color should actually, it should be white, because so let's say colors dot, okay, sorry, icons dot, let's say maybe there should be an icon called check. Okay, good. And then color should be colors dot white. Okay, so yeah, so this is just to see what we've been doing so far. Okay, now it's not really arranged, so let's kind of do some let's do some little work right now on the container. Let me add a padding, or rather I'm going to kind of take out any padding. So there's this right, okay, yeah, edge inset dot 0. So there will be a 0 offset on all of them. So let me, take out any padding. And now alignment, kind of would want to align alignment or center. So that we're good, just to make sure things are a bit well kept. Okay. So now let's come here. Well, we have our rows, so you can see things are just kind of all packed up together. So I'm going to let's kind of give a space between them, right? Okay, so that kind of goes to the edge also. So we kind of need things to come a bit closer. So I'm going to wrap this, I'm going to pad this rather. You know, it seems, let's make it 16. Okay, so yeah, we're getting there, right? We're getting there. We're getting there. Okay, so let's see. So these are text span. So these are options. Let's change the style to theme dot of context dot text theme dot let's use medium. That should reduce that a bit, right? So you can actually play around. You know, we could use a headline small, right? And then this is what we'll still have, and then maybe make this a headline medium, right? So of course, in the end, just you know, play around with it, right? So that kind of makes things a bit yeah, a bit better, right? So the next thing we're going to do, let's see, okay. So these are container. So these are containers what holds all this, right? And you can after this question, so the question is, do we want this to kind of be at the center here? Well, it's not really bad. We can also take it to the edge, right? But well, that's not really something to really worry about. Okay, so let's these are container that holds the question, the options rather. Let me just add a padding. Let me add a padding to it. Well, okay. You know what? All right. Let's take a step back. Kind of want to do some. So I have the infinity. Okay. Okay. Well, so let's kind of do a decoration. So let's decorate this. First of all, let me give a border. So I'm going to say border.all. And then the width of this border should be 3, right? So let's just save that and see what we have done. So you can see that, right? And then the color. Now, for now, let's just leave it at colors.black, right? But we will make these colors dynamic. We'll make it dynamic. Okay. Now, we kind of also need let's say a border radius. So I'm going to say border radius dot circular, and I could just say 16 if that's not too much. Okay, well, seems a bit much though. Let me just use 12. Okay, right. I think we can actually do with that, right? Okay, so yeah, I think yeah, that's fine. So I'm just going to for the Flutter text, right? This is just this. So these are two separate things. So these are container is how an option should look like, right? I can decide if I just kind of add a comma here, right? Remember, we want 4 options, right? We want to have 4 options. So if I was to, sorry, if I was to duplicate this, right? Control D, Control D, Control D, right? You'd see that we would have these 4 options where you can actually select, right? But now look at how long the code is. So what we're going to do is that we're going to, we're kind of going to abstract things. Have I reduced it? I think so. This is just how many? 1 container. Okay, let's take out this one. Right. So, okay, we're back to 1 container. So what I'm going to do, let's abstract this. Let's extract this rather. So I'm going to call this answer option. Right. So we have, our answer was option was widget. Right. We now have that widget. So Let's take that out of here. A new file, I'm going to answer option dot dot. And let's go back to the game screen. So I'm going to move this out of here. Okay, space that here and import material package. Okay, so yeah, that's where we are at this moment. Okay, so let's save that to be sure we're good. So we have just one. Of course, we can still duplicate, and then it looks a bit much cleaner if, for example, we would want to do it this way. But of course, we wouldn't want to do it that way, right? We don't want to repeat things. So how can we actually have more of it, right? How can we have more of it? So back here in in our so remember, where are we on? We're on our game screen, and we have this container. So this container takes a question and then the answer option, right? So what I want is, I also want to abstract this because this is a question on its own. The whole of this is kind of like they're intertwined, right? So we can reuse it, right? We can reuse it. So what I'm going to do is also to abstract that, right? I'm going to abstract it, and then we'll do some more work on that. So let me extract. I don't know why I keep using the word abstract. So let's say question widget. Good. So let's call it question widget, and then let's do some more work on this, right? Let's do some more work on this. So currently we just have a container, right, that has this the question text, right? So let's kind of just add a style here, and it should use let's try title large instead. Okay, so I think this is a bit better. The question is a bit much visible, right? So let's do a bit more. So we have our column. So I want to, so let the question go to the left. Everything should just be aligned to the start. So process alignment dot start. That should push the question, yeah, to that edge. Good. Now, so I'm going to also do a main axis alignment dot start. Also, kind of want to just make sure everything is properly arranged. Now, but of course, you see that things are kind of just too, they're just both of them, they're just touching the edges. So it means that we can wrap our column, right, with a padding, right? Let's say of 16. Right. Okay. I think that's a bit fair. That's a bit fair, right? And then we can also kind of, let's make the card have you can leave it this way, right? Not bad. So let's not overdo, but of course you can play around with the container and make it look a bit more beautiful, right? That's actually up to you. So what I want to do, I want to generate a list of answer options, these widgets. I want to generate a list of widgets. So instead of just saying the answer option, I'm just going to cut this, and I'm going to say, this means as it's generated. So I'm going to say list dot generate. So of course, it takes in the length, and then it takes in a generator, right? The generator there is basically just a widget function, right? And of course, you have this growable property. So this just creates a list with a length positions, whatever you pass in as a length, right? For now, I'm going to say 4, that the length should be 4 for now. Now for our, generator, so it uses an index. So I'm just going to use this and then pass in a column, right? Because it should be, it should all be aligned, kind of. So here I'm now going to pass in the what answer, what option. So let's just refresh that. And you can see it gave us 4 of it, right? Gave us 4 of it. But they're kind of just looking, all tied up. That's why I've wrapped it in a column. So I can just put a sized box of height. of 16, that will just kind of separate, separate things for me. So yeah, so that, they're a bit separated, right? So I could actually just add a spacer here just to, let's use a spacer with a flex of 1. Let's see. Kind of want to give a decent space, between the question, just in case, right? So yeah, so this is what we have so far, right? Still a lot, still some. Actually won't focus more on functionality while um we actually would get we can focus on functionality later. We can perfect UI. Okay, so let's keep on keeping on, right? I'm also going to let me add a spacer, right? After our well, okay. Where does yeah, I think after this, fine. Yeah, good. So I think things are looking a bit better now, right? So this is our question. Now, all these things you can see we had coded them. We will, we'll kind of generate them automatically, right? But let's just, finish let's just get the major thing working, right? So now in our, so this is how our question widget looks like. So let's also just take this out of here. I'm going to call it question widget dot. Okay, so let's take this out of here. Okay, so we import a material package. Okay, so we're good. Yeah, this is talking about, all right, we'll fix all these little things. I think we have, okay, the answer option also needs to be imported. Okay. So let's import this. So now, let's just save this. So you can see we're good, right? But I'm going to switch to using what we call a page view builder. I kind of want to, the functionality here for the experience is that I want to be able to swipe and then, go to the next question or something. I just want to use a page view. Let the whole of this actually be in a page what view. So this is the question widget. So I'm just going to cut this, right? And then let's just give this. Okay, so I'm going to get a sized box here, and the height of the sized box, I'm going to use, let's say, media query dot of context dot size dot height. Let's just do like an 8%, 0.8, right? So the child here is going to be a page view. It's going to be a page view. We're going to use the builder. Let's just get to build things. So the scroll axis, the scroll direction rather, we want it to be horizontal, right? So, so I'm going to say axis dot horizontal. So that's how I want it to scroll. But you can decide for it to scroll or not to scroll. But the animation there or the experience there is after you're done answering the first question, it should just swipe to the left. Of course, you shouldn't be able to move out a question until you have answered it. So to stop that from happening, I'm going to just use the physics property, and I'm going to use, it has the never scroll, no, never scrollable physics. Yes. Right. Okay. So, yeah, I think so this is just going to create a scrollable physics, right? Yeah. Okay. So for our item builder, right? We need, let me just do control space and good. So I'm going to now call our question widget, right? And I'll say this, but there are a few other things, right, we'll actually just work on, right? So let's say item counts of, let's say, 4, right? Let me just save that, right? So that's that, okay? So I want to just check something. Yeah, so you can see, without that, you can see that's why it's a page view, right? You can just swipe. But of course, you shouldn't be able to swipe with questions. So you can use this for your onboarding and all that, but you shouldn't be able to swipe with questions until you've answered one of them. So hence the reason for, setting this. So never scrollable. Okay, so let's move on. Let's just finish the UI quickly, right? Okay. Yeah, so let's move on. So for the answer options, right? Now in our apps answer option widgets, you can see we actually had coding these answers, these options rather, right? Of course, but we should not do that. So also we're going to, update this answer option widget so that it's actually reusable. So for an answer, for an option rather, we need an option is made up of a string, right? We call that text. An option has an index, right? So an option also has a question ID that is associated with it, right? So I'm going to call that question ID, and it should be of type int also. Then of course, when you click on it, something should happen. So we need a function, variable. So I'll just call it on pressed. So we initialize this. So it means that when you're creating an option, right, you need to pass in these, variables. So, okay. So sorry about that. Int question ID. Okay. So because of its type can have a value of no. Okay, so required. Okay, that's good. So what we're going to do now is to now update it, right? So let's update our, need to basically pass in the actual, stuff into it. So first of all, here that we have this 1 represents the index, right? So instead of saying 1, we still need this dot here. So I'm going to use I'm just going to say, I'm going to get the, let's say, index, right? I'm just going to pass, say, index plus 1, because you know that indexing starts from 0 and you don't want to say 0. Option 1 should be 0, right? You wouldn't want to actually, do that. Now, the next thing, so these are index, of course, represents the index of that question. Now, this a car is the actual option, right? The actual option. So I'm just going to pass in, which we are calling a text, or maybe I should just rename it to option. I think that should reflect in these 3 places. And then what next can we update? So I think for now, I think we can just work with this, right? The remaining stuff we'll actually have to now go to our controller class to, try to see if we can do some actual logic change and all that. So this is actually fine. Now let's come back to our question widget. Now the answer option, we now need to give it those actual values, right? We need to give those values to it. So we're going to use our question model. So first of all, the question ID will be from our question model, right? Question model.id, right? The option is going to be question model dot options, right? But I'll pass in index because it needs to take the particular one. And then the index, of course, is just going to be index. And then on pressed, right? So when we press, when we select a particular option, we want something to happen, right? We need to be able to check the answer. So we have, we already have, what's it called? I think we did some logic to actually check an answer and all that, right? We did some logic to do that. Let me show you something. I can just do something like this. I can say get.find, right? What do I want to find? Find our, we created a, what's the our controller, right? And then from our controller, we'll call the check answer because we need to check the answer. And the check answer there takes a question and put a selected answer. So the selected answer here, we're just going to pass in the index, right? That will give us the selected answer. Okay, so that's actually that for the answer option. But of course, let's go to our game screen because that's what we're calling the question widget, which we need to pass in the model, right? We need to pass in the model. So there, I'm going to use, so we have our page builder, we have our item builder, we have all that, right? So here, I'm now going to so our question model is going to be our controller. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to wrap this. So I need access to what's it called? Our question model, right? We need to actually pass in the what's it called? The question list, right? We need to pass in the question list because that's what is needed for this question widget. But our question list is found in our controller class, right? It's found in our controller class and we don't have access to it. Now I can use an OBX, but I'm going to also use a get builder, right? I'm going to use a get builder for this, right? Now get builder gives me access to, the controller and all that. So what I'm going to do is my column, I'm going to wrap this column with the get builder, right? So wrap it widget, get builder, right? Now our get builder, I'm going to pass in our question controller. Okay, and of course it's missing a named parameter, which is what we are going to pass in, which is the builder, right? Now the builder is going to now point to the column. So I'm just going to take this out, right? And I think we need to close out. Okay, so let's just rearrange this. So part of the properties of the get builder, right, is, also has to be the part, it can actually initialize your controller. So it has this init parameter, right? Right, so it describes the part of the user and blah, blah. So it's basically just going to help to initialize. So I'm going to pass in our question controller here. So that's going to kind of like initialize it, for us, right? So let me just save that. So with this, I now have this controller instance, right? Wrapping this column, right? So with that, I can now say controller dot the question lists, right? and then passing the actual what index. So it's passing the particular what question, right, that is needed. So let me just save this, right? Yeah, so we have a Stack Overflow um, issue which we will resolve. That just has to do with the UI thing, so we'll resolve that, right? But let me see. Let me check for issues. Okay, so let's see what the issue is. So the question widget. So Stack Overflow, when this was called question controller. So dot that. So this is it. So this is kind of costly in calling itself. So we're having a Stack Overflow here at this question list. So let me just check again, just to be sure. Okay, so if you notice, we are making a mistake here. It's like I'm calling this question list again. So that's the recursive. You can say the getter question list recursively returns itself. But what I'm supposed to return is this particular list with the underscore, right? So that's the issue. So I'm just going to replace that. Okay, so that should fix that. Okay, good. So you can see now that we have the actual questions we created, right? We have the actual questions we created, right? With the actual index. You can see the first one. What does a variable do? You can see nothing, store values, hold an index, complain and all that. So, we'll implement the next and all that later and all this other stuff, right? So, yeah, I think we are kind of getting there, right? We're getting there. We're getting there. So now let's head back to our game screen. So after that, well, we have an item count. So we shouldn't, of course, hard code that. So I'm going to say controller dot question list dot length. That gives you the the count, right? Now it also has the page controller has a controller also. So this just I'm just going to say controller dot we'll have to create a page controller that will kind of control the number of items there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to initialize, let me go to my question controller. Let me create let me just do this here. A page controller instance. So I'm going to initialize it, when. So that's just that. Then let's take this up a bit, way too down. So let's take it here. And then I would want to initialize that when, when this controller class is being initialized. So did we create an on init? Okay, we did not. Okay, so let's create one. So on initializing on init, right? Let me initialize the page controller. So this would mean that I'll probably have to, and then the initial page, I'll give it 0, right? Now, of course, on initialize, we also want to call the reset answer. I think I thought we did this because we need to reset, this guy. Okay, so let's save that. So it's saying we have an error somewhere. Okay, so controller.page controller. So okay, so yeah, so let's init, yes, because so we'll just have to rerun this. We'll just have to rerun that. Okay. So yeah, I think that's basically that. That's basically that. Then let's see if we can get our custom button to kind of work properly. So in our custom button, one of the things we did not actually do, one of the things we did not do, right, is to, yeah, okay, so we did not initialize this, right? But of course, we made this reusable. So we're going to create a, function variable, right? And a few things, just a few things for our custom buttons. So let's say function on pressed, right? So here, I'm just going to pass what's on pressed, right? So you can see this is what the function, this is what actually what it takes. So, and then of course the string, this text, we shouldn't actually hard code it. So final string, let's just call it text. Let's just call it text. So here, I'm just going to pass text. And finally, let's make the width, you can adjust the width, right? Let's make the width adjustable, right? Final, so you want to use a double, right? Now I'm going to just pass in width here. Now on initializing, I can actually initialize the width, right? But at the same time, I still have the flexibility of changing it. Like I can actually just say width, this dot width equals, let's say 100, right? But this doesn't mean that I cannot, kind of, what's it called? Change it. I can modify it. So let's just add a box decoration. I just need to add a border radius. That's all. So border radius dot circular, and let's just use an 8, right? So here, let's see what's up. When I click on start, of course, name should not be empty. We initialized that. So let's click on start, and then okay, so we have this, right? Good. So let's head back to our game screen. So our custom button now requires, that we give it, what it's due. So what we want to do is when you click on next, it should take you to the next question, right? And the next question function we created is in the controller. So let's wrap this, let's wrap our custom button with a get builder, right? So I'm going to wrap it widgets, get builder, which takes a builder, right? And of course, the builder just points to, I'm going to take out this child, so it points to the custom button. And the custom button is requiring an onPressed. So on pressing the custom button, what do we want to do? We want to call controller dot the next question. I want to go to the next question. Okay. Okay, so we haven't, you need to, okay, sorry, question controller, right? So that now makes this recognize that it's the question controller. So next question, right? And then it also needs a title. Unpressed. The text is title. Sorry, next, right? Okay, so that's that, and of course we can just use the init parameter to, sorry, that is, yeah, init, and then call the question controller, right? So expected to find, okay, so let's save that. I think we're probably missing a particular, so this opens, maybe we should just close this, yeah. Okay, so we're good. Yeah, good. We're good. So let's move on, right? Okay, so this is basically what we have so far. So what does our next question do? It actually checks. We haven't actually implemented it. Yeah, so we haven't implemented it. But let's look so far. We still need to do some check on this, right? Everything is just looking all colored and all that. But let's work on our next question function, right? Yeah, so let's go to, we're going to do two things. We'll work on that and we'll also work on this color because we kind of don't want everything to look this way. In fact, I can actually just do that now. So let's say we have, I want to create a color function, and it will get the index answer or answer index, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I think we have this is pressed, right? So if it is pressed, right, and if the answer index, right, is equal to the correct answer, so if the answer index is the correct answer, what do we want to do? I want to return a green color. So I'm going to say colors dot green, colors dot green. I can actually use this shade, this shade, right? So green dot shade 700. Okay. Let's say 600, right? So that's if the answer index is the correct answer, right? Now we'll also do an else, or rather an else if the answer index, right, is equal to the select answer, that is the one you actually want, the selected answer for the user, right, that user selected, right, and right, and correct answer, right, is not equal to selected answer. So you know when you actually select something but it's actually the wrong one, right? So that means this is true. So the answer index and the selected answer are the same. So that means the user selected a particular index, right? So if it is true and this other one, the correct answer is not equal to the selected answer, right? It means that you chose something was wrong. So want to return, of course, colors dot red. We'll return a red color, colors dot red, right? Can also just, let's do a shade of 600, right? So yeah, after all this, right? In the case where none of them are true, just return colors as white so that we don't have any, right? So this is, we're going to use this get color, right? But let's get our next question function. Let's work on that. So to get the next question, first of all, remember we're using a timer. So I'm going to say if our timer, right, is not equal to null, very important. If the timer is not equal to null, or the timer dot is, in fact, if it is not equal to null and is active, right? I think we need a null aware. Okay, so if the timer is not equal to null and the timer is actually active, right, we will stop the timer. Okay, to go to the next question, we check that the timer is not equal to null. That means there is a value. And is it active? If it is, I want to go to the next question, we will stop the timer, right? Now, another condition for going to the next question is we need to check the current page versus the, based on the question list. So if that's where we have our page controller. So our page controller, with that, we're able to get the actual page. So if page controller.page is equal to our question list.length -1, right? it means that we want to go to the results screen. So what does this mean? If I'm on page 4, question list -1, remember it's based on indexing, right? So you start from 0. That's why we actually have to do the -1. So it's 0 to 4. But 0 to 4 actually means you have 5 items. So that's why we now do 5 - 1, right? So what I say, if you're on page 4 and the the length of question is what your is 4, that means 4 is actually equal to 4. It means you're actually on the last page, right? So if you're on the last page and you click on next question, we should actually do something else. In fact, we should go to the results screen, which we haven't, okay, I think we call that game status, right? So let me just add a body here, center widget, a text that says, sorry, child text, and it just says game status. Okay, so let's get back to our game screen. So what we want to do, our game question controller, right? So if you are the last page, of course, so go to say get dot off. So remember we talked about the get off. So I'm going to say get off and to name, but did we routes? Remember, I think we had our routes dot game status was root. So you're going to the game status, right? Which is kind of like the final screen. So if that's not the case, right? If that is not the case, first of all, I remember if that's not the case. So that's not the case mean that maybe you're on page 2, right? You're on the second page. And the second page is actually holding the question index of the second, the second question, right? So it means you're in like 2 or 4 questions. Okay. So what we want to do, if you now go to click on next, so we first of all initialize that if is pressed is false, right? And then we call page controller dot, it has a function called next what page, right? So what's the duration? We could just say duration in milliseconds. Let's use milliseconds and not micro. Milliseconds, and could just say 500 milliseconds is fine. And curves dot linear, more like so just think of it like an animation, right? So let's use a linear stop. I just use that. I usually use it, so I just move left to right. So just go to the next page, and of course, after going to the next page, you need to start the timer, right? Because the user needs to know that okay, you have limited time to answer that. So that's the other condition of the next question function, right? But of course, after doing all that, we need to increase the number of questions. So number of questions variable that we created, we can now say page controller, right, dot page. So we'll just increase it, right? Remember this because of indexing. So I think we just have so our number of questions is double. Can't be used as a step because it's final. Okay, we made it final, so just make it a double. So the number of questions we initialized it as 1, right? That's why. So we're adding 2. If it was 0, then we would have just said 1. Okay, so where's this? Okay, so we now increase the number of questions, right? Increase the number of questions, and of course, remember we're using GetX and we're using the get builder, so we'll call the updates function. Okay, so that's actually what this does, right? So if we click on this, right, of course it doesn't work yet because there are still a lot of other things, the timer and all that. We need to set this whole timer stuff, right? So I think we have our stop timer, we have our reset timer, and we have our start timer. But of course, we just designed this. We haven't actually done the implementation of how the progress, that progress timer is actually going to look like, right? How is it going to listen for updates and all that, right? So remember our timer here, so let's see, it has this seconds and all that. We're using the OBS, right? We're using the OBS. So it means that we use the OBX widget to listen for changes. So I'm using two ways of state management, the get builder and the OBX. Any of them actually can suffice. It just depends on how you use it. Okay, so that takes me to, let's go to the progress indicator, right? So in our progress indicator, right, I'm just going to do get.find because we have already, so I'm going to say final controller get.find. So what are we looking for? Of course, we are basically just looking for the question controller, which already has been initialized. So question. So remember, you must initialize it. If not, you will not be, you won't be able to, what's it called? You'll be able to use it. So question controller. Okay, so with this now, I'm going to now return, I'm going to wrap this whole sized box with an OBX. So I'm going to return OBX. Paste that there. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, the value of this progress bar is not 3, right? So I'm going to say 1 minus the controller, our controller. Okay, so let's see. Seems I can't. Okay, sorry, this is actually. This is supposed to be. Let's. Okay, so. Yeah, that's right. It's meant to be global, so I can actually make use of it. So controller dots, we have the so let me see. We still, yeah, the argument question can't be assigned to parameter. Yeah, so hold on. It's controller dots. Sorry. Dot value. And then let's see. This is just a way to, okay, this. So the issue we're having here is this const. So just messing things up. Okay, so, and then the text that should show the actual counts down. So instead of hard coding 4, just going to do this, right? And then I'll say controller dot the second dot the value, because it's an OBS, right? And then I think that's just going to save that. Of course, we have this, take out this const here also. So yeah. Okay, so I think that's for the progress. That's for the progress timer, right? That's for the progress timer. So let's take a step back and let's see how far we have come. So we have our questions, right? We have our questions and all, we have the timer. Just refresh this again. I may actually have to do a restart, but so let's restart this because I'm still seeing 4, right? So now another thing is we're showing this 25 here, right? Of course, but this should show the number of questions. Shouldn't show 25. So let's just see how far we've come. Okay, so you can see our timer is working, right? You can see our timer is working. 3, 2, 1, and then the question controller not found. You need to call get.put. So this is trying to go to another screen. So let's see where this error. So in our game screen, line 20, get builder dot question. So we need to go to the next question. And it's saying that the question controller has not, okay, it's not found, right? So we need to call get.put or get.lazyput. I think we have done that. Let's see, not that question controller. And so this is, it actually needs to go to the next page. So, but all right, let's actually fix up what we have missed out on doing game screen. Okay. Let's just bring this down. So here we have question, which is fine. So the number of questions should be, we're going to use the controller dot number of questions, right? Now, but of course, this is a text, right? And this is, a double. So I'm going to say dot. First of all, let's round it up to a whole number, and then let's convert it to a string. Okay, that's just that. For the number of questions, right? I'm just going to say controller dot the count, right? That actually shows the it should actually do the number of the counts actually. So let's come to our controller and let's create a let's see. So we have the number of questions. Okay. So let's create a count, right? I'm just going to say int get count of question, like the question count. So how I'm going to get this is that I'm just going to get the question list.length. Let me just pass that there. So I can use this now. Okay, just convert to string. I don't need to round it, it's an integer, right? So that's basically that. Okay, so let's okay, so this is where we'll just round it up for today. We are actually out of time. Yeah, but I'm certain by Thursday we will round up this application. I think it's just little that is left. So we'll round this up on Thursday. Right. So if there are questions, I'll take them on the Discord channel. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.